And no bass?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
How is everybody? Thursday night. We missed last week together, so
Yeah,
it's been ages.
It was amazing because I had fever again.
Oh.
I get fever every week. Except this one.
Toddlers.
Toddlers.
Yeah, they're full of germs.
Well, and they sneeze in each other's mouths, you know, so it
Yeah, but
passes
I'm there.
around.
Oh my god. No good.
Okay.
And I'm here thanks to
Hi,
Stella.
hello, thank you,
Gave you a
Stella.
ride.
Thank you.
Good job, Stella.
Yeah.
And I brought my mother-in-law's favorite cookies.
Wow.
For those of you that are joining us online, we're sharing them virtually.
They're calorie free.
They're calorie-free virtually. It's much better that way. Yes. Okay. Shall we start?
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, are there any topics of frustration or questions that y'all feel are pressing very heavily on you, or things that you would like us to address, or should we just jump right into the topic?
The topic sounds like very interesting.
Okay. Stella, anything from your end?
Trauma and the triggers.
Uh-huh.
Trauma and triggers.
All the T words.
Right up.
Okay.
Right up. Right
Yeah,
on.
transforming triggers and trauma.
Into
Into
tranquility.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's we are here.
Okay, so this is another extremely practical skill and concept and level of awareness that we can take from Torah that truly is applicable to all mankind. But when we are given the gifts of the inner secrets of Torah, we can truly understand it and grasp it at a whole new level, because we can apply it to our godly soul and not just to our animal soul. But just really quickly, let's clarify the difference. So whether you are Jewish or non-Jewish, this lesson is, this concept is for everyone, because we all of mankind has a quest for divinity, a quest for connecting to godliness, and each person has their own path and their own way of getting there. And even among the Jewish nation, each one of us have our own path and our own avoda and our own level of connectedness. And if you looked at the hundreds of thousands of people that would wait in line and visit with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, you know, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the early 90s, the reason why people connected with him so much is because he valued them exactly as they were, without trying to change them or force something on them. You know, and even in the Tanya, it teaches us that there's a concept of putting on clothes that are too big for you, and then you trip and fall in them. So if you're playing dress up, you know, in your parents' clothes when you're a kid, and you've got the pants that, you know, are long, and the shoes that are too big, and the sleeves that are, you know, twice as long, they swallow you, and you trip and fall when you're wearing these clothes that are too big. And sometimes when people are feeling a desire to connect to their godliness or to connect to Hashem, and they don't know how to do it in their own path, so they look around them and they take on these rules or these policies or this path that they think is what they're supposed to do, and it's not genuine for them at all. And so it doesn't last. And it certainly doesn't last if you do it because it's forced on you from someone else. And, you know, my husband reminded me of the story recently that there was a guy that, with two stories. One, there was a guy that came to the Rebbe one time by dollars, and which is when all of the, you know, followers of the Rebbe would come, and he would give them $1 for...
I have $1.
You have $1?
Yeah.
Give him $1 for tzedakah, but the dollars would be showered in blessings, so people would save that $1 and then give another $1 to tzedakah. Okay, but they would wait hours and hours and hours in line for a 3-second encounter with the Rebbe because of the power of the Rebbe's blessings. And they would say that having the Rebbe look into your eyes for just 3 seconds would stir your soul and ignite your soul in ways that would last a lifetime. So it was extremely, extremely powerful and certainly otherworldly. Okay, but there are a couple specific instances relating to what we're talking about right here. One guy came to the Rebbe and he said, Rebbe, you know, I really feel like I should grow a beard. Okay, now the Rebbe never told anyone to grow a beard. Okay, he has each one move at their own pace, at their own capacity. And he said, Rebbe, I really feel like I should grow a beard, but I just cannot inspire myself to do it. So maybe if you tell me to grow a beard, then I will do it because you told me to, and that will be enough for me. And the Rebbe said to him, I'm not telling you to grow a beard, because then it'll be my beard, not your beard. Okay? And then there was another guy that came to the Rebbe also by dollars, and he said, I so badly want to be your chassid. Like, I feel it so deeply, but I just cannot do the jacket and the hat and the beard. Like, I just can't bring it upon myself. And the Rebbe said to him, do you think that's what makes someone my chassid? So that's not the case at all. There are plenty of people around this world wearing suit and beard that are not chassidim. So what makes someone a true chassid, a true follower of mine, is someone who wakes up every morning and works hard that today will be better than yesterday. And that's what makes someone my chassid. So we don't need to get so caught up in the nonsense of who I'm meant to be and what that's supposed to look like by the world standards. Even if we know, and I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Even if we know that this is what the halacha says, and I'm aiming in that direction, and I'm not feeling it yet, there are two different types of people. There are types of people that can just hop there, and they just force themselves on everything in their being, and then they allow the rest of their identity to catch up, and it works for them. Okay? And then there are people that no matter what they do, they cannot see, they can't make that leap all at once. They don't know if they can make it ever. And as long as we are taking those baby steps and connecting wholeheartedly along the way, we don't have to get ourselves caught up in the end result. Because one of the things that has been the most impactful for me in my own path is that as a control freak, as a recovering perfectionist, as I like to call myself, one of the things that I have had to learn in my path of tshuva is that the results are not up to us. We're not paid on results. Not in our avodas Hashem. Not in our path of stepping into our divinity. Now, in the natural world, sometimes depending on the type of job you are, you're paid on results. Sometimes, if you're paid hourly, you just clock. You can show in, you can clock in, you can do a mediocre job, you can clock out, and your paycheck doesn't change, right? Now, there are some jobs where you might have a salary, or you have commissions, or you have bonuses, and you're paid on results. So if you don't do the work, you don't bring the results, then you don't get paid. And neither one of those are how we get paid by Hashem. Our contract is very different. Our contract is that the effort is up to us, and the results are up to Hashem. And for people like me that have been so consumed with results, or we're so programmed in today's world to be hyper-focused on the results, it's very, very difficult to unplug from that level of programming and to say, you know what? I'm going to give it my absolute best every single day. And then at the end, I'm giving all of that to Hashem, and He's going to take care of the rest. And that is literally an entire rewiring of our identity and our approach to daily life. And it's something that still to this day I have to work on with myself every single day, is focusing on the results. I'm focusing on the effort joyfully and not getting so caught up in the drama that's whirling all around. And if I feel like I'm failing, this is a big, big test of the sitracha, of the other side, is testing us with our failures. Because when we feel like we're failing, it's so easy to get discouraged. Do you agree? I mean, think about it. Who wants to keep going when they're failing?
Nobody.
No one. It takes all the fun out of it. It just literally sucks the wind out of your sails. And so how do we feel? What is our mindset when we're failing in something? When we're falling on our face all the time, when nothing is working, when all we're getting is negative feedback all around us? What do we want to do?
Give up.
Yeah, exactly. Forget it. It's not worth it anyway. It's not working for me. Clearly this isn't the path. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe all the failures are trying to show me something. Maybe I should change path. Okay?
Well, but it could be.
It could be too.
Could be. However, not typically. Typically, the failures and the first of all, failure is always feedback. Okay? And in the modern society, and I probably think any society for that matter, we have been groomed to fear failure. When in reality, failure is a necessity of success. If we want to create anything of value, anything of impact, anything of greatness in this world, we must be able to withstand failure and understand that failure is it's two things. Number one, it makes us stronger. Number two, it makes us wiser. Because when we can reflect on the feedback, as opposed to taking the failure like a child and just throwing a tantrum and saying, no, la, 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 la. But if we can stop and rise above the emotion and unplug from that failure experience, we most of the time learn more from the failure than we do from the success, from the victories. Okay? But that takes some emotional fortitude. And usually we have to lick our wounds for a minute or two and have our, rocking in the fetal position in the closet, and then we can come back and face the world and face the music. But one of the things that we even work with our students from a very, very young age at school is fail forward, fail early, fail often. Because the moment that we can remove the sting of failure from our experience, the more that we can move forward. Okay? So typically, the failure experiences are not a sign from the universe that we need to stop what we're doing. Typically, now it does happen, so I'm not saying never, okay? But typically, those failure experiences, first of all, they separate the strong from the weak. Because the faint of heart that are only there because they're interested and not truly committed, the minute they hit those obstacles, they go home. So it separates the weak-minded from those that are truly committed to follow through on something. The other thing that it does is it tests your resolve, it tests your commitment, it allows you to get stronger, and it allows you to collect all of the failure feedback to reposition yourself in a smarter, better, more efficient way. Make sense? So, failing in and of itself is not the failure. Typically, the failure is the quitting that we do when we have the failure experience. Because most of the time if we quit, we never know if we're only 5 minutes from our miracle. Okay? But what does that have to do with the concept and the conversation for today? So today we're talking about how we can learn to transform triggers into tranquility, right? So this is something that when we can become aware of this and internalize this as a new skill in our arsenal, this can truly give us one of those secret superpowers on how to live in our own geula daily. Okay? So I want to take a 10-second detour, and I want to reestablish what we mean when we're saying our own daily geula experiences. Okay?
Geula experience?
Geula experiences. Yep. So geula is the Hebrew and Yiddish word for the redemption, the ultimate redemption. Okay? So there are 2 phases of geula. There's the initial early stages of geula, and then there is the ultimate redemption. Okay? And when we're right now in the first initial stages of redemption, the ultimate redemption is, of course, when you have the raising of the dead and everyone living in Yerushalayim, and there's all sorts of different speculations of what that will look like, whether Yerushalayim will be expanding to the whole world or we'll all be magically fitting inside. There's so many different versions of what that's going to look like. Okay, but we're not there yet. We're in the first initial phases of the redemption, and this is where the Rebbe teaches us that we are all working on obtaining our own personal geula, and all we need is one person to be able to truly internalize their own geula, and then it becomes a domino effect. And because Klal Yisrael is all one people, once one person experiences it, then it ushers it in for everyone else. Okay, because then it becomes a part of the collective consciousness, right? So we're all working on it together, and we're sure it's going to be the women that bring in the geula, because we've been told that, of course, from the beginning of time. So what we're working on right now, whether or not we're going to each be the one that brings in the ultimate geula, may it be right now and one of us so we can get the party started, but we can still experience our own personal redemption every single day, and that's how we start strengthening our geula muscles. Okay? So what does this mean? This means that it is entirely possible for every single one of us to live in a state of geula all day, every day, right now. What does that mean? Does that mean that I live like I'm in Shabbat all week? Does that mean that I live like in a cave somewhere all by myself and I'm not interacting with the world? Does it mean that I live like the frommest of the frommest of the frommest Jews, where I, look a certain way and act a certain way? When I used to hear this explanation, I was like, no, I don't want that. Don't make that me, because I thought it was going to make me follow rules that I didn't want to follow. I thought it was going to, force some like stuffy, unfun lifestyle on me that I wasn't interested in. That's not what it means at all. What it means for each one of us at our own level is that we are able to rise fully and wholly beyond and above our own limitations. That's what our personal geula means. Does that make sense to everybody? So we need to establish that as our baseline. Okay? Would you agree that that is a goal worth aiming for?
Absolutely.
Yes? Yes? Yes?
Yes, I'm just trying to think in concrete terms.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I don't push against my personal limitations every day. Right?
Okay.
So I can't necessarily rise above them every day.
Okay.
So how can I live in redemption every day if I don't really get the opportunity to rise above?
Well, that's a good place to start. It's stretching our muscles of pushing beyond our comfort zone. Look at that face.
Well, isn't the first question, do you want to live in a redemption every single day?
Well, I don't think anyone who didn't want to just would not be here.
Sure.
So I think that by
As a baseline.
As a
So-
baseline,
But
right.
some people don't
Yeah.
know it's an option.
Yeah.
So then if you don't know if it's an option, then how do you even, isn't like admitting the problem the first step? Like,
100%.
like
No,
you know.
but I think people who realize there might be more would come to something like this to explore what is the more. And if you don't even imagine that it could go beyond what you're experiencing, then you just would not be here. And yeah, you probably don't want to because you don't know any better.
Although there are a lot of people that come just for the socializing and the cookies.
And
True.
I know.
True.
That's right.
But to your point about the failures, they probably leave after the first class.
Correct. Yes.
So-
Yes. By nature and by definition, moving out of our comfort zone is an extremely uncomfortable thing. Okay? And human nature, we are designed as physical beings to stay comfortable, to create comfort. And that is actually why, that's the whole test, is that we are given a nature and given a test and given the opportunity to rise above that nature. And when we can truly rise above that nature, that is when we experience our destiny. That's when we experience our greatness. That's when we experience all of the miracles. Because chasing your dreams never happens within your comfort zone. Never.
Not to take away from this very specific topic, but tangentially related. I am listening to this book. It's called Range.
Okay.
And basically it talks about specialization versus generalist general approach to things.
Okay.
And there's a lot of research that says that ability to, oh please don't do that.
Can they hear you? Can y'all hear her? Yeah? Okay.
That ability to apply principles, like deep structural principles from different domains to your existing problem actually brings, like, opens up the options and brings the solutions. As in, the more similar scenarios that you apply to your current problem from different domains, outside of your box, outside of your domain, the more likely you're to either solve your problem or even invent something. So, your point, sort of necessity is mother of invention, and going outside of your box gets you closer to that.
Yes.
Agreed. Uncomfortable, but scientifically proven to be effective.
Yes. Yes. So you're absolutely right. So what we're saying here is that, and interestingly enough, this circles back to the very first class we ever had together back at the end of December. So each one of us are born with dreams, or we develop dreams as we grow. And these dreams, of course, were given to us from above. We have these seeds of greatness planted within us, and we also have these dreams given to us that we want to pursue. Now, simply by the act of pursuing these dreams, in order to achieve them, we must climb over the fence of fear, outside of our comfort zone, out into the big, scary world around us, in order to pursue these dreams. And in doing so is when, for example, what they teach us in Tanya and in other places in Chassidus, we think we're just out, facing the big, bad world and, going in chase of Parnasa or going in chase of our dreams. But truly, our neshama was sent on these paths to fulfill our purpose and to step into the reason why we were sent into this world to begin with. Okay? So this is why we said we should never apologize for our dreams. Now, our dreams may need refining along the way. And as we grow and evolve and become more refined as people, we may choose to let go of some of those dreams because they no longer serve us. But merely the act of pursuing those dreams and the growth we encountered along the way was an extremely important part of our journey, because it helped build our identity to where we are now. And then we take all of those wisdoms and hindsight and lessons learned along the way and apply it to where we're going now. Make sense? So, for example, when I used to beat myself up for all the stupid, foolish, shameless things that I don't even remember doing, okay, for a few decades, then I would get so beat up about it. But if I didn't go through all those things, I would not have the frame of reference that I have now on the world around me. And there's a reason why your windshield is this big and your rear view mirror is only this big. Because living out of your rear view mirror is a stupid way to drive. Okay? But how many of us do that? We're constantly looking back, and we don't even embrace where we're headed because we're so busy looking back and beating ourselves up, or shoulda, coulda, woulda, or we remember only the warm, fuzzy pieces, and we have, forgotten the painful reality of where it was that we came from. Okay, so as we're taking all of those things into account, as we're climbing the fence of fear, and then we're going outside of our comfort zone, and then we are understanding that that's where the real growth happens. Do you agree? So to Stella's point, we should actually aim to spend as much time as possible every day outside of our comfort zone, because that's where we grow. That's where we become stronger and better. Now, our brains cannot handle it all day, every day, for the most part, okay? But as we become aware of it, what we can do is we can grow those muscles a little bit more, and our level of ability to cope, our coping mechanisms, and our threshold for tolerance is just like any other muscle. The more we practice it, the more it grows. And then the more that we can handle. And interestingly enough, ever since COVID, when the world exploded or imploded, should we say, humanity has lost all semblance of coping mechanisms. Gone. Completely. Okay? Nobody has an ounce of resilience, speaking generally. Okay? The work ethic, gone. Follow through, gone. Ability to keep our word, gone. And what do? We're falling apart at the seams, you know? Nobody's feeling the vibe. You know, I need a wellness day.
Sensory overload.
Yeah, okay.
Call me the right pronoun.
Yeah, all sorts of therapy for who knows what, okay? But you know what? This is a lie that we are telling ourselves. And this is a self-imposed prison that we've created for ourselves. And this is a very disastrous and false reality that we have created for ourselves. It's been said, there's a very famous saying that says, hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. And good times create weak men. And that is most definitely the cycle that we are seeing in the world. Okay? But we're not going to worry about the rest of the world. We're going to worry about ourselves. Because, you know, like the old saying, first you got to put the mask on yourself, and then you can help your neighbor. So when we're looking at all of these triggers around us, by the way, getting triggered is also a fairly new term.
Oh my God.
Okay? Everybody's triggered by everything all the time.
You know what's another new term? Snowflake.
Snowflake? What does it mean?
They just
person that
get break
gets
for
triggered
everything.
easily.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Snowflake.
Yeah.
What's it-
like,
what's
don't
what you
touch
said?
me, I'm gonna melt.
Yeah,
Oh.
totally.
Okay. So the world is full of snowflakes.
Thank you.
Okay.
There you do.
So we have a snowstorm. Okay. Okay. So
Sorry.
no, you're good. We have become an extremely fragile society. Now, we cannot fix the whole world. But what we can do is decide that we are not going to be sucked down to the level of mediocrity and misery that's happening in the world around us. And I heard someone say something the other day, and just listening to them say it, I forget exactly how they said it, but just listening to their words made me like sit up a little taller. I was like, I need to have better posture for this conversation, okay? And they were talking about having an internal honor code. See, you did it. You sat up when I said that, okay? And I loved that thought. So what does it mean? It means I have my own level of honor with myself, with my creator, and with the world around me. That no matter what is happening around me, I don't compromise on that code. It's not up for negotiation. Okay?
Yeah.
So, do you love that as much as me?
Mhm.
It's so good.
That's
But,
encouraging.
but why is it new to you?
It's not new. The concept is not new, but the power of the statement that it's a recurring thought in your mind. Okay? So there's such a thing as integrity. There's such a thing as these are my standards. Okay? Everybody's got standards that we don't want to compromise. But when I'm thinking to myself daily that I am living by my own internal honor code, and it doesn't mean, see, if I'm not living by this honor code, it also means that I can very quickly become judgy of everybody else around me. And I could become drained by what I'm constantly seeing around me. I have a person on one of my teams, and she is a very high functioning being, yet at the same time, because she calls herself an empath, and she is highly sensitive to energies around her, but she has worked herself into a situation where she is constantly the receiver of energy as opposed to the giver of energy. So she becomes very easily drained by everything that's happening around her. And she's constantly, like, I'm watching her energy shift to where she's rolling her eyes, or she's getting irritated, or she's getting knocked off center, she's getting triggered by the things happening around her, because she is putting herself in a place to be the receiver instead of the giver. Okay, now that is a decision that we make on a moment by moment basis. In any conversation, someone is selling and someone's buying. Someone's leading and someone's following. Someone's giving and someone's taking. In every single conversation, interaction on the planet, always. Okay? A lot of times, our 2-year-olds are stronger salesmen than we are. Okay? And we end up on the receiving end. And that's okay. It's just an awareness that we have to wake up to. Okay? But if I realize that what happens to me is only 10% of the equation, and how I respond is the other 90% of my outcome, then it's a game changer. Okay? So if we want to look at how do we transform triggers into tranquility, there is a very simple formula for this when we stop and break it down. Okay? Now, for some reason, I cannot see a clock on here when I normally can see a clock.
We've
So
got about
can
half an
somebody
hour.
help me?
A little
Just
under half an hour.
Okay, perfect. So I want to go through this formula, because when we can really break down the simplicity of this formula, it's something that we can recall and rehearse anytime we need it. And you can use this on a daily basis to hold yourself at that honor code and to operate in your own personal geula every day, as opposed to living like the inside of the pinball machine, you know, where you're constantly knocked around here, knocked there, and then you live like you're just, you know, like a ship in the storm, where you're constantly knocked around and you're trying to hold yourself stable and you're trying not to drown. And that's no way to live. That's surviving. That's not thriving. And we most certainly want to thrive as a baseline for a geula. Do you agree? Okay, so step number 1. The first and basic introduction piece of this is recognizing our triggers. Okay? Very, 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 very few people have a full conscious awareness of their triggers. How do we develop a conscious awareness? We stop and we write them down. So for the first thing that we do is we step into observer mode. Is everybody familiar with the observer effect? So the observer effect is when something is happening to you, and instead of being very, very close to the situation and responding emotionally, we zoom out. And instead of needing to defend ourselves or to justify what's happening or to solve the problem, we just observe as a very neutral party, like a scientist observing what's happening and logging the data of what they see. Okay? So the first way that we identify our triggers is to take that observer effect on our life and observe ourselves, step out and watch any given day or any given week. And most of us have the same recurring triggers because we have the same recurring patterns throughout our day. Okay, now there are a few things here and there that change, but remember, we are creatures of habit. We think over, I can't remember, 5,000-6,000 different individual, remember we learned the phrase thought worms, which means connected, like thoughts, individual concepts. So if I'm thinking about paying my bills, that's all one thought worm. If I'm thinking about brushing my teeth, that's all one thought worm. If I'm thinking about, what I'm going to say to my boss tomorrow, that's another thought worm. So we have about 5,000 to 6,000 different thought worms per day. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but 80 to 90% of them are automatic. They're the same thoughts we had yesterday. So we actually have very, very few unique thoughts on a daily basis. Okay? So that means that we do have the same recurring triggers throughout a given day or a given week. So how do we know what's triggering us? What would you say are signs or symptoms that we've been triggered? What does triggered mean, by the way? Let's start with that. What's a definition of triggering?
Something that makes you angry.
Makes you angry. That's one method. That's one outcome of being triggered.
Like a sore spot that someone just presses.
A sore spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a button they come to do, and
Pushing
then you
your
thrust.
buttons.
Yeah,
Yes.
pushing buttons.
Okay.
Something that disconnects you from the present time.
Amazing.
You break
Yeah.
the-
Something that disconnects you from your presence,
Yeah.
from fully being.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What are you gonna say?
Just general extreme reaction.
General what?
Extreme reaction.
Extreme reaction. Yes. So all of those are great. Very, very accurate. And I think if we were to sum it up, that being triggered is something that pushes us or pulls us off center. It sends us like Yael said, it takes us out of being present and it kicks us into an unconscious state. We go into like zombie reactionary mode. Okay? And then what else does it do? What happens
The
when
body
that?
physically reacts.
Yes.
Fight or flight. I mean,
Yes.
you're defending
Yeah.
yourself.
Yes. So when we get triggered, a chemical reaction
Yeah.
starts. Okay?
It's in your body.
The adrenaline, the hormones, the fight or flight, all of those things that are happening, and depending on how we get triggered and what our triggers are, then it sets off these chemical patterns that our body is actually highly addicted to. So that's the crazy thing about triggers, is that we have created our own monster, which is us. Okay? We have met the enemy and he is us. She is us. So because these chemicals, this chemical soup that's running through our body, this adrenaline and these different hormones that are happening, these are giving us a habitual pattern because our body is addicted to that little high that we get every time that happens. So just like when you get a ding on your phone because the hit of dopamine, okay, you get that exact same thing when somebody triggers you, because then you're like, oh, fight or flight, and then we're like, where's the drama? Where's it coming from? How am I going to respond? Blah, blah, blah. And we literally brace ourselves for whatever's coming. But what we, excuse me, what we do not realize is that we are addicted to that state because it makes us feel alive. That is the same reason of nicotine, of alcohol, of all those other things that they give you a little bit of hit, and then what do you need to keep that going, to keep that buzz?
More hits.
You need more. And that's what happens with our chemical reactions and our emotional side effects. Okay? So what are different types of emotions that happen once we become triggered? You said anger. What's another one?
Frustration.
Frustration. What else?
Anxious.
Attack.
Feeling anxious, feeling
So
attacked. So you have to
attacked.
defend yourself, right? Yes.
Unsupported.
Unsupported. Alone.
Unloved.
Unloved. How about
Misunderstood. I mean,
misunderstood? Afraid. Stressed. Just a general
Like a panic attack.
panic attack, stress. A lot of times we slip into scarcity mentality. How am I going to do it? How am I going to make this? How am I going to survive? Which is just a different version of fear.
That would be too much, but yes.
Okay? So these are all symptoms and ways that we are triggered. Now, we all have different triggers, different things that happen to us based on our personalities, our backstory, our lives that trigger us. And without getting necessarily overly personal, does anybody want to share an example of something that you know that triggers you or that you see around you? Sorry.
it happened to me like 2-3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And thank God I resorted it and I figured it out, and hopefully I can apply it the next time I get triggered, because hopefully
Okay.
it's not a trigger anymore. But
Okay.
the word picky
Okay.
is a
Picky?
huge trigger for me.
Meaning someone calls you picky?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, essentially, I understood that my code of ethics and my set of standards for myself don't necessarily meet other people's set
Okay.
of standards. And then also, like, bitachon and Hashem, we talk a lot about that.
Uh-huh.
And in my specific category, I mean, bitachon and Hashem could be so many buckets. So
Yeah.
in that specific thing, I understood also that it wasn't the word picky that had triggered me. It was the lack of bitachon that others had, or like that mine was stronger in that specific box.
Okay.
So it wasn't really like, I was taking it personally,
Okay.
being called picky, but it wasn't really about the word picky.
Okay.
It was about something else completely.
But it was setting off a whole different
Yes.
reaction for you. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do you have something?
Yeah, but I'll share it after the class.
Okay. okay, fine. Yeah, Elle, anything that you can think of that you would not mind sharing?
My English is a little bit limiting me, so
Okay.
let's go to Stella.
I guess for me, it's always about fairness.
Okay.
Like in general, any situation
that's
really
good.
where I see something unfair happening, at least in my perception of unfair, that just drives me nuts. And it could
Injustice.
Be, yeah,
Okay.
injustice.
Okay.
Or I mean, I feel like injustice is a very
Big
formal
word.
and big
Yeah,
word.
yeah,
I mean, it could be something really tiny, but
Yeah.
you know, especially if it relates to like kids or
Okay.
like older people or just like this, because the underdog situation,
Okay.
or just unfair accusation. I don't know what
Yeah.
it, but like the sense of unfairness.
Yeah.
Like I could very easily pass by many situations and say, adults, you know, go
Uh-huh.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Not of my business, or you know, suggest something, or in many cases. But when it's unfair, it's like that riles me
Yeah.
up.
Okay.
And I
That's
have
a
a lot
good
to
one.
say.
That's a good example. Very good example. So let's talk about also just some common triggers that may trigger a lot of us. So how do we deal when we are perhaps low on cash? Okay, and we're stressed about how we're going to pay the bills or how we're going to make the ends meet. That's a big triggering one for a lot of people. How about when we feel like someone has spoken lashon hara about us, or we hear a gossip or a lie or an attack or something that it makes us feel bad? Okay. What about when we feel slighted by a family member, and we think they were rude or they were disrespectful of us, or you know, that type of a thing? These are all things that trigger a lot of people. I mean, and they're really baseline, super animalistic triggers, like being cut off in traffic. Okay? So dumb. But we all do it, okay? We all do it. We all have those moments, you know, where we just can't take it, okay? There are so many that we can think of when we look and just think about ourselves throughout the day. How about that email? You know, you get an email from a coworker or a client or a, you know, someone, and they're just like, and you're just going to town on your keyboard, you know? and you know, they say sometimes that emails that you write in anger are the most well-written emails that you will always regret sending.
I had a colleague a while back, and he always used to give us an example of a random email that ended up in Wall Street Journal.
Oh my god.
Wall Street Journal. So that is always like right
Wow.
at forefront when I have a situation like that. Like I would not, like sometimes I could run overtime over the deadline,
Yeah,
or be
yeah.
right at that deadline, because I need to reread it like 20,000
Yeah,
times
yeah.
to make sure that everybody who could possibly read it will find it neutral, or like it'll be very factual.
You have to fluff it up. You gotta
Yeah,
fluff it up in
yeah,
America.
You know, just at least from my point of view, make sure that I
Yeah.
eliminate anything that could be misconstrued.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you really treat all of your emails as in they could appear in Wall Street Journal,
Uh-huh.
it's a really, really good way of
You don't write
monitoring your
anything.
response
Yeah.
and templating your response.
Funny. It's true. Okay. What about social media? Okay.
All those people should think that it's going to end up in
That's
the Wall
right.
Street Journal.
That's right. Okay. So many people are highly triggered by social media.
Social
okay?
media?
Never mind that the algorithm exists for this purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, it's full of babies.
The algorithm exists to feed you
Bad
things
babies. No good babies.
in
bad
a
babies.
vacuum. So
keep you
you think you're
unsatisfied.
in an echo chamber, And then every now and then it sends you something that is the opposite of how you think, just to get you
trigger.
enraged. And there have been so many studies that are done on the most powerful button on social media is the angry button. The emoji.
Really?
Because, yes. Because, why? Because of the reaction it creates. Okay? So that is a very, I mean, when we think, y'all, that this is what we have come to as a society, is that we get enraged by morons that we do not know, who know nothing about anything, and we see something they have to say, and it ruins our whole day.
That is the trigger, the ultimate trigger.
Other morons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they look. See, but the thing is, what we're learning is how to stay calm in those
That's
situations. Because I look at some of the
That's
people
right.
that have different opinions, and they look like they're about to have a heart attack. I want to
Literally.
pray for them
They
because
truly do.
they believe in things that are actually not even factual. And even if I was in their shoes, you're about to have a heart attack. Calm down.
literally
Like
gonna
it's
give
really,
yourself a
it's
stroke.
very
Yes,
sad.
yes.
It's very, very sad.
So what we, of course, are working on is not being full of judgment for these people, but being full of empathy, right? And then learning and understanding that that's a lesson for me. Now, the Baal Shem Tov says that there is a lesson in everyone and everything and every experience around you. And a lot of what we learn, you know, I'll give you an example. When I was in my early 20s and I was first moving into leadership, and I had my leader make a move that let me down so deeply. And I was destroyed. Like, I couldn't believe that someone would do such a thing. And so I was talking to another mentor about it, and she said, you know, as devastating as that was for you, think about what a powerful lesson that is going to be for you for the rest of your life. That when you are leading other people, you will work hard to make sure that you never make other people feel the way that you were made to feel in that experience. Okay? So again, if she had done right by me in that moment, I probably never would have even internalized that there was a lesson to be learned there. Okay? So again, when we are seeing these situations all around us of how other people are acting at a very, very baseline level, that's just more lessons for us of that's who I don't want to be. Right? So the first thing that we do is we make a log, we make a journal of what are the things that trigger us. Now, here's what I recommend that you look for. 2 specific things. Watch the ebb and flow of your day. Okay? Ebb and flow means the ups and downs. So when you go throughout your day, and just stop and think about it now, like from the morning till the night. And then think about it across the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Look at your patterns. Look at how you move through the day and through the week. Where are your highs and where are your lows? And where are you most typically triggered? Where are you most susceptible to becoming triggered? Are you calm throughout the day when you wake up until a certain amount of time? Or do you automatically wake up triggered because you oversleep? And so you're constantly stressed and trying to get to work. Are you always running late and always running behind? Okay, is there a certain time of day where you typically get triggered, where you find yourself angry, frustrated, stressed, venting? Do you find yourself at the water cooler at a certain time of day, or you have a certain friend that you constantly gossip with and you're like, why do I get sucked into it every time I talk to that person? Okay, so truly look at yourself, log your day and your week, and find your triggers. Find the recurring bits. Okay, then watch the self-talk that comes after that.
Your self-talk?
Yes, your self-talk. So trigger. So remember, E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. E plus R equals O. So the event won't change. What we can change is the response. And when we change the response, it changes the outcome. Make sense? So what we want to look at is what happens when we get triggered. What is that emotional reaction that starts at that point? You with me so far? Mm-hmm. So that's step 2. Okay? Now, the third step, and
What's step number 2?
step number 2 is observing the emotional reaction that happens after the trigger. So we've watched the ebb and flow of our week. We're looking across our patterns. And I know I have different. For me,
We have 7 minutes.
10?
7.
7? Okay, perfect. certain triggers in my day lead me to different behaviors. So not everything that triggers me to the same reaction. Okay? Some things trigger me to be angry. Some things trigger me to feel judgmental. Some things trigger me that I'm just like, forget it. No, why am I even doing this? Not worth it. Okay? Some things trigger me to want to eat a bag of chips. You know, so I have different triggers that create different responses. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now here's the most powerful piece, is our perception. So somewhere along the way, we have developed a story that justifies our response. Now, I read a lot of research on this, and this was mind-blowing to me. The story that we have developed happens at lightning speed. So we tell ourselves a story every time we get triggered, and it happens so fast that it's like a flash of lightning. And this story, because it's been built up over time, and so we retell ourselves these same few stories over and over again, and the story justifies our behavior. Okay?
So it's not necessarily a bad thing because it's a coping mechanism and we need to defend ourselves.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. We need to train how we react to.
No, we
things.
don't. We don't need to defend ourselves. Defending ourselves, whenever you put a cat into a corner, it comes out clawing.
Okay.
Okay? So the truth never needs defending.
Okay.
Okay? So if I am living in a state of truth, you know, if I, for example, if I have a 3-year-old come up to me and say, "You're fat and stupid," am I going to get hurt?
No.
No, because I know it's not reality. It's their version, it's their viewpoint, and it's completely not who I am.
But would the fact that 3-year-old dare to behave like a total brat bother you? Like, it would bother me. Like, who are these people who are raising this 3-year-old brat?
Okay, so
That's
there's
a different. That's a different.
It's a different trigger, but
it's a trigger.
It's a trigger. Like,
okay.
yeah.
But if
So-
an adult told us that, we would be triggered.
Why? Because I am giving my value to that person. Okay? So I am giving away my power and I'm giving away my truth because somewhere along the line I developed a story that I am only as good as what the people around me are saying. Okay? So there are all sorts of different stories that we tell ourselves based on anything else, but if I am so clear, now I'm not saying that I'm holding here, but I'm speaking on if we're there. Okay? If I am so clear on my value and my internal worth that whatever is being said around me
Doesn't affect you.
doesn't affect me because my intrinsic worth is rightly placed. Are you with me on this? Now, so what that means is, for example, our Mashpia says, when we are holding in this spot, this is a massive, massive, massive geula power, okay, is that I can feel but not get entrapped. So I can feel what you're saying, and I don't have to be cold and disconnected. So I feel what you're saying, and I can be with you in your pain, or I can be with you to validate and hear what you're saying, but I don't have to give away my power. I don't have to give away my energy. It doesn't have to, you're not jabbing me and letting all my energy run out. Okay? So when I can understand this trigger, the emotion, the story, and then realize no one around you controls how you feel. You and only you determine your emotions and your feelings, but we have been raised and programmed over time that we are giving away our power constantly because that's where we find our worth. Okay, so the simplest way that I have ever seen this described, they said, take back your pin. Okay, what does it mean? So it basically means I'm taking back my power. So if I am dictating my own internal worth, then I am holding the pin and saying, what's my truth? But what happens is I give you my pin. 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 Everyone around me. And so then I am getting all of my validation and all of my inner tranquility from whatever my circumstances might be all around me. So how can we apply this on a normal everyday basis? What I'm going to recommend that we do is I'm going to recommend that we spend this week practicing, okay, and just being aware and see how far we get. And find out, like at the end of each day, do a little quick reflection and think, where did I lose it today? Where did I do well? Where did I become aware? Where did I observe? Now, most of us, we're gonna lose it a few times. Okay, we're gonna ride that gravy train of emotion and the roller coaster, but we're gonna notice it afterwards, and then we're gonna say, ah. Okay, but there will be some times that the more we start to think about this, we will catch ourselves midway. Like, what am I doing? I'm being triggered, and then we can laugh a little bit about it. Now, what happens is the moment we do this, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say, the moment we can just put a little bit of distance between us and the emotion, you've won. Do you know why? Because you have taken the venom out of that reaction. Okay? And the more that we can practice just putting a little bit of daylight between you and the emotion.
But it's not only the emotion, it's a physical reaction.
It is. It is. Well, and the emotion itself is a physical reaction. Okay? How you feel, first of all, thoughts are things. Okay? They're abstract in that we cannot hold them, but they are very physical in that they create physical reactions in our body.
Yeah.
And it's physical, it's a physical outcome.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's nothing to feel bad about. It's a very real thing that's happening. And for any woman to step into her true greatness and her true purpose, one of the things that we must learn to do is master our emotions and understand that our emotions are lying to us much of the time. And one of the biggest lessons that I've had to learn is that when we say sometimes, let me rephrase it, sometimes saying to ourselves, follow our gut, is terrible advice. Because we are mistaking our gut and intuition for our emotion. And our emotions lie to us because of these addictive patterns that we have created, because we are addicted to the outcome of the emotion because of that emotional roller coaster that happens. Okay? So whether we are following our intuition, which is our inner truth, or our emotion, and if we can recognize and discern the difference, which takes a lot of practice and wisdom to be able to do, and we miss it sometimes, I do a lot, it separates and it makes a difference between a wise decision or a very stupid one, depending on which inner voice that's raging at the moment that I'm listening to. Okay? We're not going to get this perfect. Not today, not tomorrow, probably not by next Thursday either. Okay? But what we can do this week is just start leaning into it and see how you feel. Some things are going to make you angry. Some things you're like, oh, I don't like this. It's not fair. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to work so hard? Okay? I just want to be mad. I want to be angry. I want to feel justified in my emotion. And so what we have to ask ourselves is that emotion serving you, or is it preserving you? Preserving your natural state and not your godly state. And that's the difference. Our animal soul is driven by self-preservation. And our godly soul is driven by self-growth and connecting to our higher self. And of course, when we're not caught up in the motion, we know where we want to be. But in the moment, that's why we start every diet tomorrow. That's why we start every good thing tomorrow, because today I'm going to be comfortable, and I know that tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to be living in my higher power. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay. Any questions?
No.
What if you rarely have triggers? Okay? Because you've done a lot of work.
Good.
I mean, you still have normal triggers that you're working on. But there's always one person, and you don't even have to see them often, but every single time it's like this one person just triggers you.
Yep.
And unfortunately sometimes it's family and you can't disconnect from family.
Correct.
It's not like a stranger or a friend that you
Correct.
can separate from.
The whole point of them being in your life is it is your workout plan.
Oh, that I'm 100% certain this person is my tikkun in every lifetime.
In every lifetime.
In every lifetime. So what do you do if you don't have that many like triggers, but it's always one person?
You
And
pray
it could
for
be-
grace.
It's like it never happens with anyone else except one person.
Well, the only story that I can think of that relates to this is, so, the Rebbeim always say that when people come to them for guidance or for tshuva or for, I made a mistake and I need someone to help me figure out how I can make a tikkun for this. So the Rebbe would always find, all of the Rebbe would find a trace of that thing in themselves. Okay? And the Baal Shem Tov says, if you do not have a trace of that character flaw within you, you would not be triggered by it. So every time we see these things, it causes us to do some self-reflection, and it may be deep, to say, what am I holding inside of me that is allowing me to get triggered by this other person? Because again, if it were a 3-year-old acting in such a way, it would not faze us. So we have to say, what more growth do I need to where I can love this person where they are without becoming entrapped by this person? Okay?
Good luck.
Hatzlacha!
That's
Amen. Love you guys. Bye.